here with successfulblackwoman.com. I'm here with the lovely Patrice Johnson, also known as Naturally Treese, and we are Your Black Women. How are you doing today, Patrice?
I'm doing good, Ms. Noma. How are you doing today?
I'm doing great. So great story today. We have a story about a woman who is apparently the wife of B&B Entertainment CEO. The story called her an executive, a high-profile executive's wife. And the talk is about her new book called Beyond Love. And in this book, she discusses relationships, marriage, love, and apparently says that she and her husband, or rather the story said that she allows her husband to have a quote-unquote side piece. And I'll put the link in for the story. But you know, upon reading more, it sounds like they have an open marriage, and she did say that she had 2 sister wives at some point. And then also her husband from his outside relationships has had 2 kids. And she says, you know, it's really just about honesty and just being open. And as long as he's being honest and telling her about his other relationships, she has no problem with that. She also does say that even though she's allowed to have boyfriends, she feels like her husband is more than enough for her. So what do you think, Patrice?
I think a lot of women are okay with their man having a side piece if he's making all the money.
Really?
Yeah, because I mean, most of the time when you see rich men who can have multiple women, it's usually, or I'm sorry, when you see men who openly have multiple women, it's usually because that man brings in enough money to please everybody.
Oh, okay, I see. Okay, I understand what you mean. Okay, go ahead.
Yeah, because I mean, how many times have you seen a guy who makes $10,000 a year have several beautiful women and a wife, and all of them they know each other, they're okay with each other, and they're okay with the situation? How often do you see that? A lot of women, they will stay with a man who makes millions of dollars as long as he is constantly bringing in the millions of dollars. And if a woman says that's not true, they're lying.
I didn't look at it that way, but actually there is, I think, some validity to that, because I guess the idea is, you know, in polygamous groups, a lot of times the requirement for a man to have more than one wife is that he must have the ability to take care of them. And by ability, they mean, you know, put a roof over everybody's head, take care of the kids, have the ability to, you know, spend time with each one equally and give equally to all of them.
Right.
Providing peace is certainly a big component of it. And yeah, if you're just broke, I wonder how that would work exactly. But I think,
I mean, first of all, you're broke. And so I know you don't have a house big enough for all of these women that you're trying to have and all of these children that you're trying to have. Most of the time when you see relationships that you know live through polygamy, it is a man who can take care of everybody. And most of the time, if you see them on TV, they have big houses. Everybody has their own room. They have several brothers and sisters with with a big kitchen, enough food, enough clothes. Everybody's taken care of. If a man has an apartment, 1 bedroom, and 4 women, and all these girls got 2 kids apiece, where you gonna put all of them?
Well, first of all, let's break it down a little bit, okay? A broke man, even with just 1 woman, that's still a problem, okay? Even if he just has 1 woman and he's broke and can't make ends meet, that's already a problem, okay? Because the truth is, you know, people talk about love and all this other stuff, and I'm all about it, but love in of itself can't pay bills, can't feed family, can't feed kids, you know, and so on and so on. So there is some kind of reality to the fact that, okay, I'm not a materialistic person, so I'm not talking about millions and a luxurious life, although those things are great. I'm talking about just the basics, being able to cover the basics and the fundamentals. And if a man can't do that basic thing, he can't even keep a monogamous relationship going properly, because there are just going to be too many problems. There's too many problems. My husband used to love joking and saying that he would always make sure that we were well taken care of. He's like, a broke people fight, broke people fight, and I'm not trying to fight all the time. And there is, even though he was joking, there is some truth to that, because when people are not getting just the bare basics, they tend to be under a lot of stress, and that can be a problem. That could really be a problem.
Right, right. So as far as open relationships, I think the important thing that we have to understand about open relationships is that just because someone has an open relationship, that doesn't, it doesn't affect us. If it ever began to affect us, then it could become our problem. I think a lot of times people kind of take on other people's problems, and it's really none of our business. It's almost like the LGBTQ community. If you want to be a part of that, be a part of that. If it doesn't affect me, I don't understand it. And if you ask me if I understand it, I'm going to tell you no. But that does not mean that I have to come down on your relationship just because it's something that I don't live by. And I think that with the open relationship situation, especially when it came to like Toya Wright saying that she gave her husband, they're now divorced, Min Pitts, she gave him passes, or Monique and her husband, who she's been knowing since she was a child, they have an open relationship. And supposedly Jada and Will Smith have an open relationship. Sometimes I wonder, why do we fill our lives with somebody else's problem? If you want to, if a man and a woman want to have an open relationship, as long as that open relationship is not taking place in my house, there's really no reason for me to care. And I think another thing that we need to understand is not every marriage is not one size fits all. And that's something that we kind of get confused, because the open relationship situation, I'm not sure if I will be with that, but I'll be honest, if I'm with a millionaire, take care of everybody, I might not say anything. And I'm just like most women wouldn't say anything. And
but they do. There are women who go with millionaires and go bat-ass crazy when he cheats.
Well, see, I think the reason why it could become a problem, the way I look at it, if a man cheats on his wife and they have an agreement to have an open relationship or whatever, that's a different situation. If that was never the agreement and now this woman is calling my house, she's showing up at my door trying to fight me, acting like she has problems, then we have a problem. Because that is something I didn't sign up for. If you want to have the side woman or whatever, make sure that I don't know about it, because that's not something that we agreed on. Now, if it's something that we agreed on, that's different. Okay. And most women agree on it. Because if you don't agree, that means that you left, but most of them don't leave.
Okay. So many layers. But let me go back to this woman, Akia Brown, that we started the conversation with, okay? And I'm gonna, here's what is being reported online, okay? Quote, the mother of 6 said she decided to write the book. Now this is her book, Beyond Love, right? Mother of 6, okay? Decided to write the book after people kept asking her about her open marriage and how she was able to make it work. The secret, she said, is all down to honesty. Quote, I want the readers to read the book with an open mind. At the end of the day, everybody just wants to be loved. And when people love someone unconditionally, and if you're honest enough to say, this is what's happening, if they're open and honest enough, you have to be at least open to accepting it. So her emphasis is on openness and honesty. And then she says, Brown said her husband tells her everything about his intimate relationships, which have produced 2 children. I have an opinion about that, okay. She explained that her husband is a giving and caring man with a lot of love to give, and she's fine with him having other intimate relationships with other women, okay. So I'll start to break it down a little bit, okay. We're talking about Americans here, okay. First of all, in this country, polygamy is illegal. So the first thing that you have to think about is once some kids spring out on the side, unless you're the main woman that he's married to, these side women have the potential now to threaten generational wealth, okay? Now they have a claim to your stuff because they're not technically married. So this is like, it's gonna be treated like what? Like a child support kind of thing, right? Mm-hmm. They technically always will have the right to claim child support and access to your wealth, to your assets. So that's a threat. And the assumption again here is that everybody's going to be happy always, and that's not always true. If the side woman becomes disgruntled in any way, now you have a problem. Okay, she's going to be suing you, she's going to be harassing, she's going to be doing all kinds of things. So you have that issue. The second thing, the second issue for me is, let's not pretend like having sex with a lot of people isn't putting yourself at risk. One of the reasons why I like monogamy and believe in monogamy is that at least you're starting off with the idea or the agreement that we're going to be monogamous with each other, right? So we're not having sex with all these other people, let alone unprotected sex and producing other kids, okay? This is something that people are trying to gloss over that is actually very serious. You could catch HIV or some other disease that will end your life or will start the process of ending your life. That's very serious to me. And then the third thing is she says that she doesn't have any lovers of her own, which I don't believe that men and women are the same. I personally would never want another husband or another boyfriend. I can't, in my mind, can't even contain it. Like, where would I get the time? Where would I get, the stamina? Because he'll have his own set of needs. I mean, to me, it just doesn't make any sense. And then there's the issue of paternity. I know we have paternity tests. Then there's all this thing of, you have kids with this guy and then you have kids with that guy. To me, it's just, it sounds like a mess and it sounds like confusion. Mm-hmm. Now, it sounds like I'm going to contradict myself. Let's remove ourselves from the United States, okay? I am not 100% against polygamy. I think that it is a way of life that has worked and can work. My full disclaimer is that even though I wasn't aware of it when I was growing up, I had two grandmothers on my maternal side, and they were apparently two wives. Now, they did what I guess we can call it polygamy in the way that I've understood it when I've seen it in other cultures, okay? The idea is that this man takes care of two women. It isn't about a man with a nasty, well, I shouldn't say nasty, but an out of control sexual appetite who decides to keep collecting women because he wants to have, he's attracted to all these women. It doesn't look like that. It was more about building a family. And as it was told to me, my understanding was that when my grandfather first had his first wife, she, because of health conditions, was not able to have too many children, or at least having children was very hard for her. So she had two children, but my grandfather wanted a big family. So then he got a second wife and they were able to have a big family. And that was basically it. And he took care of both of them, and that was that. Mm-hmm. The other way that I've heard of polygamy, and this was, I think, this was explained to me by, I think he was Moroccan and he was Muslim. What he said was that polygamy was allowed in their culture or in their religion at a certain time because a lot of men were killed or were going to war. So there was a lot of women who were not taken care of and couldn't have husbands. So a man would actually take it upon himself to be responsible and take care of those women and take care of those children. And that was how polygamy was generally accepted. It was not, again, that whole thing of, I don't think I can contain myself. I can't just be with one woman. I got to have lots of them. It wasn't like that. It wasn't so sensational. It was actually a very responsible and a very noble thing to do. And I think that people sometimes don't understand that that's what polygamy is. When you hear about all these polyamorous relationships, that's not what they're about. They're just about, well, I don't feel like controlling myself and being with one person. I'm just going to be with a lot of people. Those are very different things.
And see, that's exactly what I'm saying. If a man can bring in the money, then most women are okay with it. I mean, you basically just said what I've been saying. If a man can bring in the money, then most women are okay with it. If he's not bringing in no money, they're not okay with it. So I
don't think it's fair to just make it about money, because the truth is,
but you said if a man would take on the responsibility for another family and bring the two families together because he could take care of them.
Right. But the component of being a responsible husband isn't just a financial one. It's not just about money. Otherwise, we'd all be just, marrying anybody as long as they had a bunch of money. There's character, there's protection, there's generational success. There's all kinds of things that go into being a husband. It's not just slapping
But
down
most
a
of the
paycheck.
time, you can have character, you can give love, you can give all of those things, but if you can't pay a bill, most women aren't going to take you seriously.
Paying a bill looks different for different people. Like, for instance, if you were to go to just a middle-class family here in the United States, and you'll go to a middle-class family in another part of the world, that looks different. So protecting and providing look different. That's why I really made that distinction between, we're here in America, and I know most of the audience is American. But again, this is where people mostly misunderstand polygamy. And just throw it into something about just a sexual appetite, and if I have enough money, then I can have all the women that I want. That's actually irresponsible, and to me, it's very unbecoming, actually.
But it's realistic.
For some people, I suppose. That was not my measure of finding a life partner of, oh, if he just has enough money, then I'm good, you know. Certainly, a man needs to be enterprising. He needs to be a person who has the mindset of, I will do whatever it takes to take care of my family. That's different than, I have a lot of money so I can have all the women I want. Those are two different things, and I just don't like the confusion, which is what happens. You see a lot of these women even fighting over men. And again, they don't fight over broke men, but they'll fight over a guy with a bunch of money because they want access to the money. But even the fact that he has women fighting over him already, to me, shows a flaw in his character. You see, that's a flaw in his character, because he thinks that just because he has a lot of money, he can just do whatever he wants. He's not really taking care of the emotional stability of the woman he's with, or the women that he's with. It's all irresponsible, it's messy, and there's a lot of confusion. And that is not what polygamy is. And the fact that people will confuse it with this ugly behavior is what bothers me, because that's not what it is. It's not just about having a bunch of money and then that opens the door to everything. I don't like that at all. Are you lost for words?
No, I mean, I feel like I'm going to repeat myself. I think that the only time that men usually get away with having multiple relationships, multiple women, is when they have multiple dollars. If you don't have the money, a lot of women aren't going to allow it. And I mean, you just basically said what I'm saying, but then you turn around and you disagree with what I'm saying.
No, there's actually, maybe not here, but across the globe, there are men who actually are more like pimps, in that they'll have several women, they'll have them out working, breaking their backs and bringing the money back home. You understand? It's not the same. And maybe they'll be doing their part or whatever, but it's just not one blanket thing. It just doesn't look that way all the time. I once saw this special or some kind of program on Oprah where they were showing the Utah housewives who were polygamists, and I think it's the Mormons. And it looked very flashy and very fun, you know? They were all getting along. There were all these beautiful soccer moms, and they all had a little minivan or a little SUV, and an expensive SUV. And they didn't even live in one house. They had like almost like a compound where it was like
an estate.
Yeah, where it was like she has her 4-bed and 2-bath and a nice little lawn and, you know, everything that she can imagine. And then there was like several of them next to each other. So the kids kind of all play with each other and they're all neighbors and all this other stuff. And it looks so, yay, so much fun, you know, polygamy, yay, you know. And the man was curiously out of the picture, because I think he may have actually been hiding his identity. Mm-hmm. But again, in this country, that is probably some guy who's worth millions and millions and millions, and not like a ball player millions where it'll be gone within one generation if he's not careful. These are people who've been successful financially for generations, and they've probably been raised in polygamous marriages and families and so forth, and they actually have mastered this process, you know. So it was it looked very enticing, I thought at the time, but I was honestly like, I wish people knew that it wasn't always like this. It's not always like this. First of all, there could be a lot of emotional stress on these women that nobody's talking about. There could be conflict if it's not managed right. And again, just because you have a lot of money does not mean that you have the integrity, the relationship skills, and the ability to manage a polygamous, which is essentially what it is, a polygamous relationship or a marriage or family or whatever it is. And that's when you get all these messes. You see in these reality shows, all these baby mamas fighting and all this other stuff, all that drama. It's because it's being mismanaged. And that is not polygamy. It's just rubbish posing as polygamy. That's why I don't like the confusion. And
so how do you think you prevent that? Because somebody's gonna get jealous.
Huh?
I said, how do you think you prevent that? Because I think somebody's gonna get jealous.
Right, but the thing is, in those families where they've done it for generations, they know how to manage their feelings or their emotions, or they have outlets or whatever it is. I don't know. I'm in a monogamous marriage, so I don't have to manage those feelings. But I imagine that if they did, they would have a way to do it because it has worked. And again, it takes a very high level of emotional stability and EQ, emotional, what is it called? Not emotional IQ, you know what I mean? You have to actually be a person who doesn't fly off the handle, who can manage their emotions and stuff like that. And a lot of people can't even do that with one relationship, just a monogamous relationship. A lot of people can't even manage that basic thing. There's so much conflict that it doesn't work. So imagine if you add more people to that. It's just a disaster, especially if the man does not have the leadership skills and the ability to manage all that. Just because he has a lot of money, because he could maybe dribble a ball, no. It's just, it doesn't mean he has the skill. It just doesn't mean that. And there will be problems. That's when you get people slashing tires and burning houses down and all this other stuff. It's a mess. It can really be a mess. But I would be interested to know how this couple plays out, because the people who you mentioned, Monique is on marriage number 3. She could have had 2 practice marriages and finally see what works for her. I don't know. I don't remember the other couple that you mentioned, but I do remember you saying that they eventually got divorced, right?
Toya and Miff Hicks. Toya Wright was married to Lil Wayne, and then she married Miff Hicks, and that was her second marriage.
And the marriage didn't work, right?
Not
it was an open marriage.
Yep.
Then we have Will and Jada Pinkett Smith, or Will Smith and Jada Pinkett Smith. They've never said they were in an open marriage, but the rumors keep, swirling around them. And in listening to a lot of Jada's interviews, she kind of sort of alludes to it a little bit. And I don't think she's outright saying that she allows him to have girlfriends and things like that. I think she's more kind of like what you said, where you're like, look, we're going to do it. I don't want to see it. I don't like it, but if it's not, if it's not in my face, I'm going to pretend like it's not happening. So I think maybe she has that approach, which is very different than, oh yeah, you can go screw somebody else. Let me know. I mean, how does that even go? Take a bath afterwards. I don't even know how that goes. As long as you take a shower before you get in I don't even know how that goes.
Yeah.
How that works.
According to the rumors, I mean, they're rumors, so you really can't believe everything. But according to the rumors, people have said for several years that they're both gay.
Who?
Will and Jada.
Oh, and then the marriage is just kind of like a farce.
Yeah, and I mean, you see, I think that happens in a lot of famous marriages. Like, I wouldn't be shocked if a lot of people were together on red carpets, had children together, but the husband had children from other side relationships that people just may not know about. Because people say that Jay-Z has other kids, but we only know about
Beyonce that long. I think those kids pre-existed.
Right, but that's what I'm saying. He doesn't acknowledge those children. It's just rumors.
Right.
So I wouldn't be shocked if, a lot of these men did have other kids, or a lot of these women were in other relationships and they were just together on red carpets.
Right.
Because, I mean, that's it's like if you're in a Hollywood marriage, more than likely you're either going to get a divorce after like the first year, or you're going to stay together, but you're not really together.
Well, those aren't the only 2 options, but yeah, those are very common options. And we don't know, and that's just the thing. The only thing we can do is speculate. However, as far as them having this front, Will Smith and Jada Pinkett Smith, they do have publicists and managers and all these people who are invested in that image. The same thing was kind of said, and I'm seeing a rumbling again about the former President Obama and Michelle Obama, there's like a rumbling now that their marriage was also all about, you know, let me get this Black woman, marry her, and I'm gonna work my way into the hearts of Black people, and this is how I'm gonna, you know, one day be president. And there wasn't really love there. But they had a common goal. Michelle's goal was to be, you know, a first lady, which is ultimately, again, a great position, the ultimate position, you know, other than actually her being president herself. So I don't know. Personally, I don't believe it. I really don't believe it. And I think for me, one of the things that I've noticed, again, if I compare my upbringing, which was in another country, and I compare my experience here in this country, I find that people are more jaded here. They're more likely to believe that something where two people just love each other, have a marriage, and they're building a great family. People are likely to question that more than they are to question when it's falling apart. They just have a harder time believing something can be good and pure and real. They just want to question that. And I don't know why that is, because the divorce rate in this country is not the only indicator, because if it's 50% are married and 50% are divorced, it could be either or. You understand what I'm saying? It's not because the divorce rate is high, that if there's 50% divorce rate, then it means there's 50% success too. So, but people are more inclined to believe that it's not real, they're unhappy, they're in a jail, and all this. I hear so many things, you know, like, oh, who wants that? Why would you want to do that? It's a trap, it's a this, it's horrible. Oh, you're pretending, you're not even happy, you're pretending to be happy, all this other stuff. But nobody ever thinks about the fact that there are people who just genuinely, you know, build their lives and are happy, they're content, and that's their choice. And what you see is what you get. People have a hard time for some reason. Why do you think that is?
Well, I mean, I think just with people in general, we all usually, when it comes to, and I can just say, when it comes to like blogs and things like that, blogs, reality television shows, we like to see the bad.
Drama.
The good. And a lot of times, even with like the rumors, even if you know the story isn't true, you're going to tell people it's true anyway, just because the drama is what makes everything so entertaining, and people love entertainment. So to see a married couple and they're holding hands, walking through the mall, smiling, whatever, somebody's going to come out of their ass and say, I heard he cheated on her. You don't even know them, just because. That's just honestly the way that it is. Because if you look at TV, you don't see a lot of positive images on TV, because positive is not what draws people.
I guess it's boring, because it's boring. Positive is boring.
I mean, some people might feel like it's boring.
Right.
I'm kind of tired of seeing people fighting on TV. That's why I don't watch TV anymore.
Right. I don't either. It hurts my mind. It hurts my brain. It just hurts my brain to watch that. But I do think that a life that doesn't have drama can be perceived as boring. Just in the same way that a person who's even-keeled, you know, doesn't talk loud and isn't demonstrative can be called, oh, look at her, she's so boring. You know, so maybe the same applies to relationships and so forth. So I'm actually interested in reading this book to see, because she says it's supposed to be empowering for women. And, you know, I have nothing to benefit from promoting her book, but I think it's certainly interesting. Now, first of all, her husband is a successful CEO. They have 6 kids. She's now an author, but they're having an unconventional life. At the very least, that's interesting. So they have my interest peaked. What do you think?
Well, like I said, let's keep in mind, she has 6 kids. He's a CEO. He's a millionaire. And she has 6 kids.
Okay, well, that's
I mean, but honestly, the whole love thing, yeah, they may be in love. They may really like each other, whatever. But if he was not a CEO, she would move on to somebody else. I'm serious. 6 kids? She's not going to leave? Who going to take care of them?
Well, I don't know what their ages are, but it is a tough situation to try and juggle a gaggle of kids by yourself.
Exactly. So if you are If your man is not a CEO, or if he doesn't make millions, if he's just a hundredaire, don't think it's okay for you to have a polygamous relationship just because you read the same book. You have to keep in mind her lifestyle. And that's all I'm gonna say. You have to keep in mind her lifestyle. I'm tired of people saying, well, the money doesn't matter. Yes, it does.
Well, yeah, you can't eat all that rhetoric that people you can't talk about. You can't. But I mean, I don't think that money is the most important thing. But I would never be irresponsible enough to say that it's not a factor. It is. It absolutely is a factor. And just beyond just family and marriage and so forth, I think that it's very important that this is a show that focuses a lot on Black people. We have to understand that Black people's powerlessness, a lot of it comes from not having economic power, you know. We can't affect a lot of things. You find when you look, well, when I look on my timeline, I see a lot of people complaining about a lot of things. And my timeline is full of mostly Black people, and they're complaining about so many things, you know. If it's not the fact that there's, you know, Black girls missing and nobody cares, it's the fact that somebody's kid got shot, nobody cares, it's the fact that the policies are affecting them negatively, it's about healthcare affecting them. It's something where people are just disgruntled, they're upset, and they feel like things are unfair to them. But the truth is, one of the ways that you change that is through economic power. And if you don't have money, you just can't make moves, you know. I was just thinking the other day that, and I posted it on Facebook, I was like, look, if you're not affecting things like policy, all the marching they'll watch you march, because it's like, oh, okay, they're marching again, okay, whatever. It's not that effective, at least not by itself. You have to actually be making moves in a way that can actually do something substantial. I'm not going to do it. I was talking to my husband one time. I was like, you know, if I had decided to keep my kids in school because now they're homeschooled, one of the things that I would have seriously considered would have been running for some kind of office and affecting the way that schools, you know, make policy, create curriculum, and so forth, just to make sure that, first of all, my kids and Black and brown kids, wherever they are in this community, are going to get a better education, because education is created by white people for white people. And then we complain that it's not matching what we need. So economic power definitely is a factor, but there's other factors too, and you can't ignore them.
Okay. Well, it was nice talking to you, Miss Noma.
Yeah, I feel like I did most of the talking, but that's a story for another day.
All right, so my name is Naturally Treece, NaturallyTriece. I just recently started a new business called BlackBossyHair.com. BlackBossyHair.com. I'm wearing it today. But go purchase your bundles and follow me on Instagram, Facebook, and YouTube under the same name. I am talking with my friend Miss Noma Langham Smiley Moses. Miss Noma, tell them where they can find you.
Sure. The best way to reach me is through Facebook. You can follow me on Facebook. I have my page right under my name, Noma Langham Smiley Moses. On Instagram, I am Noma Moses. On YouTube, I'm Noma Moses. And if you want to check out the latest products, services, and information that I have,